Welcome to Cliff Notes, the podcast where business meets inspiration and strategy meets balance. I'm Brandon Clifford, CEO of Business Alliance Inc., entrepreneur, investor, and your guide through the world of business, franchising, and leadership. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur, an inspiring franchisee, or just someone looking for actionable advice to take your career to the next level, Cliff Notes is here for you. Join me as we break down the complexities of business and life into bite-sized, actionable insights. This is Cliff Notes, your shortcut to success. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cliff Notes, the podcast where we break down big ideas for entrepreneurs into bite-sized insights that you can actually use. I'm your host, Brandon Clifford, and today we're tackling something that every business owner must embrace, and that's resilience, the ability to bounce back when things are going wrong. Let's be honest. Whether you're launching a startup, running a franchise, or leading a large team, setbacks, they're inevitable. But here's the truth. Like we said before on this podcast, success doesn't go to the smartest or the luckiest. It goes to those who refuse to quit. Now, the book of Proverbs reminds us, "For a just man shall fall 7 times and shall rise again, but the wicked shall fall down into evil." So if you've fallen lately, good. That means you're in the game. So let's talk about how you can rise. So resilience, it's more than just emotional toughness. It's a spiritual discipline. It's the refusal to let failure define you. It's learning how to hear no 1,000 times and to still believe that the vision that you have for your organization is worth pursuing. So again, going to the wisdom of the Bible, it makes it clear. In Romans chapter 5, verses 3 and 4, it says, "We glory also in tribulations, knowing that tribulation worketh patience, and patience trial, and trial hope." In business, just as in faith, the struggle is the soil where strength is grown. It's that fire that can forge you rather than turning you into dust. So let me give you some real world examples of resilience. I'm going to tell you about some entrepreneurs whose stories prove that failure is not final. It's actually formative, right? So we're going to start with Airbnb. Everyone's heard of Airbnb, where they are today. Airbnb has actually become almost like a verb as much as it is a company. I'm going to Airbnb this, right? So back in 2008, Airbnb's founders, they were flat broke, right? So they'd been rejected by over 20 venture capitalists. Every time they went to a pitch room, they got laughed at the idea of renting out a spare bedroom in your home to strangers. People thought it was ridiculous. So then out of desperation to keep their company afloat, they had to pivot. They had to be creative. They thought outside the box, literally. And they ended up selling novelty cereal boxes during the presidential election just to raise enough money to keep the lights on. No, like for real, like this is not a joke. They sold Obama O's and Cap'n McCain's. And but through this, they actually ended up raising $30,000, which was enough to keep their company going. And then guess what happened? That hustle, it impressed a startup accelerator called Y Combinator. And then they ended up giving them the funding they needed to get Airbnb off the ground, right? And so today, you've all again heard of Airbnb. It's worth billions, but it all started with scrappiness, rejection, and resilience. All right, next, let's look at Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, some people may know this, but may not know, he was actually fired from the company that he built. Steve Jobs, yes, he was fired from Apple. He helped create Apple. About in 1985, he was forced out by the board. Can you imagine being fired from your own company? But instead of giving up, he started a small computer company called Next. And then he invested in Pixar, which made Toy Story, the world's first computer animated film. And then eventually Apple bought Next and Jobs returned to lead Apple's rebirth with the iMac, the iPod, the iPhone. The rest is history. So that failure, it was the making of him. Steve Jobs himself once said, "Sometimes life hits you in the head with a brick. Don't lose faith." All right, third, my last example is going to be Colonel Sanders. All right, Kentucky Fried Chicken. Colonel Sanders had 1,000+ rejections. And he was in his 60s. Harold Harley was in his 60s. He was broke, living off Social Security when he pitched his fried chicken recipe to restaurants. Over 1,000 people turned him down, but he just kept going. One yes turned into two, and then two turned into thousands. Kentucky Fried Chicken is now in over 150 countries. So his age did not disqualify him. His rejections did not define him. He just refused to quit. So how can this translate to you? How can you build that kind of resilience? Let's bring this home, right? So how do we develop the kind of strength in our lives, in our businesses, for our vocations? St. Paul says in 2 Corinthians, we're troubled on every side, yet not distressed. We are cast down, but we perish not. So here are 3 practical steps, biblical steps even, so that you can grow in resilience, right? Number 1, you're going to reframe the setback. Instead of asking, why me? You're going to ask, what is God forming in me? James in his epistle says, count it all with joy when you shall fall into diverse temptations, knowing that the trying of your faith worketh patience. That failure you just had, it isn't just punishment, it's preparation. All right, second, you're going to fortify your mind with truth. When everything's shaking, you need to anchor yourself to God's promises. In the book of Isaiah, he says, fear not, for I am with thee. Turn not aside, for I am thy God. I have strengthened thee. So meditate on that scripture. Speak it aloud. Let your soul remember who's really in control. And number 3, don't go it alone. Resilient leaders, they lean on others. So find a mentor. Be part of a community. Go to church. Ask people for prayers. In Galatians, it says, bear ye one another's burdens, and so you shall fulfill the law of Christ. You're not called to bounce back by yourself. You're called to be a part of a body. All right, so let me close with this. If you're in a season of setback, don't lose heart. You're not behind. You're being built. Resilience is what God uses to make you unshakable. And he who began a good work in you will be faithful to complete it. So stand up, show up, and keep building, because the comeback is always stronger than the setback. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Cliff Notes. If this episode helped you, send it to a friend or a colleague who's going through a tough season. And remember, resilience isn't about avoiding failure. It's about trusting God enough to rise again. So until next time, I'm Brandon Clifford, and that's the note.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Business Alliance Insights. I hope you're walking away with some valuable insights to help grow and strengthen your business. If you're looking to connect with other business leaders, franchisors, franchisees, brokers, or even just looking to explore more tools to scale your business, be sure to get connected to our BAI network and check out FranLink, our exclusive social media platform built solely for our members. You can learn more about it and everything Business Alliance Inc. has to offer by visiting businessallianceinc.com. Again, that's businessallianceinc.com. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with other business leaders who are ready to take their businesses, their brands to the next level.